What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune in and check out the content, right? And I want to react to a video that this guy Scat made comparing LeBron James to Nikola Jokic, right? Who at their peak was a better basketball player. So first, before I play the audio from his video, I just want to say, like, can you? I don't like when people, in order to to pump the Joker up and say that he is, and I think, well, they what's this guy? Scat really might feel like he have to do this, but in order to really to elevate the Joker, you gotta like play down how really good his teammates are, like Aaron Gordon. What's the guy that's hurt? That I forgot the other guy, but Aaron Gordon. Then you had the other guy who was with them, Michael Porter, right? When they won that championship, those guys really didn't get no credit, and so this guy Scap always want to make it seem like the Joker is carrying his team, and which you gotta give your teammates, you gotta give his teammates some credit because don't get me wrong, the Joker on the offensive end is a beast, but and he get all these stats and all these accolades, but at the bottom line is winning. Like, when does that come into effect? It just seems like they're changing the game, or they're moving the bar. You no longer have to win championships and elevate your team in order to be the best. It's just all about his individual stats, how many MVPs, and all that stuff. And so I'm going to listen to this, and I'm going to give my reaction to what Scat is saying about when he make his comparison between LeBron James and the Joker. Now, I'm not really a fan of neither one of these players. I'm a fan of good basketball play. Like, if you playing good at both ends or great at both ends, then I'll acknowledge that, right? But I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, all right. So let me go ahead and make my, listen to this so I can put my input in.
Well, there has been a lot of discourse surrounding Nikola Jokic as of late. Winner of 3 of the last 5 league MVPs, and he's finished runner-up the other 2 seasons in between, joining only Bill Russell and Larry Bird in NBA history to finish top 2 for 5 consecutive seasons in year-end MVP vote. This year, at least for the first 32 games of the year, prior to his knee hyperextension and bone bruise on December 29th, Jokic was posting by far his greatest season ever, dropping 30 point, 12 rebound, and 11 assist averages per game while shooting mind-boggling splits from the field of 67% from 2, 43.5% from 3, and 85% from the free throw line. Now, he has come back from injury after missing 16 straight games and nearly the entire month of January. Since then, there has been a drastic and noticeable drop-off. But even amid the substantial cliff that Jokic has fallen off, he is still posting historic numbers in the 13 games following his return, averaging 27 points, 14 rebounds, and 9 assists on 55, 32, and 77 splits. See, this is how insane Nikola Jokic is. That a 27, 14, and 9 line on 57% effective field goal shooting is terrible, at least by his standards. And it isn't just about the raw box score stats, because the Nuggets have been slumping during this stretch for Jokic, winning just 5 of their 13 games over that span, heading into their game last night against the Utah Jazz.
All right, so if they 5-13, and you talking about all those stats, so it's obvious that his stats do not affect. They don't affect winning. His stats do not affect winning. Those, impressive numbers and I'm watching, this video while the guy play, and Joker is, he got some nice moves and everything, but it's obvious that team strategy is not to the teams that play against Denver, their strategy is not to slow the Joker down, let him get his thing, let him get what he's going to get, and then we're going to win the game. He can win the battle, but we're going to win the war. And so I remember teams used to try that with Michael Jordan. Let Michael Jordan, as long as Michael Jordan get his numbers and we stop everybody else, then we can beat the Chicago Bulls. But then, you got to find a way to elevate your teammates. And also, not only do you have to elevate your teammates, but then you have to play better defense than what the Joker is playing. So these numbers don't make, it really don't mean nothing. It's just doing the same thing LeBron doing. It's just stat padding.
But in those 13 games, Jokic has still generated a plus 100 plus minus. And to put that number in context, Jaylen Brown is plus 188 on the entire season. Anthony Edwards is plus 165.
Jaylen Brown came out a couple weeks ago and said that he is the best two-way basketball player in the league. Now, whether you agree with Jaylen Brown or not, the Boston Celtics are, I think, in second place in the East. They are in second place in the East. So the numbers that Jaylen Brown put up on the offensive end, combined with what he do on the defensive end, is the reason why the Boston Celtics are sitting at number 2 in the East, just right behind the Detroit Pistons. So that should tell you something.
While LeBron James and Luka Doncic combined are only plus 67. Again, that for the entire year.
Now, what do LeBron James, the Joker, and Luka Doncic all have in common? They don't play defense. None of those guys play defense.
Is plus 100 just these last 13 games, as the Nuggets have lost 8 of the 13. Certainly that hasn't been on him, yet the criticisms against by far the best player of his generation are...
Now, why wouldn't that be on him? Like, if he's going to get all the credit, the Joker they're 5-13. The Joker going to get all the credit for winning, but none of the blame for losing. That's why I said, I would never argue, and they're going to get into the discussion about who's better, LeBron at their peak, LeBron or the Joker. If you don't have to argue about the Joker being the best of this generation or he dominated this era, if he don't have the wins to back it up, its argument is over with. All these different stats. I remember when Chris Bosh was at Toronto, like Chris Bosh was putting up some really good numbers, and Chris Bosh was a really good basketball player, but they wasn't, elevating him and saying that he was the, giving him all the credit that they giving the Joker. Or remember when Kevin Love was at Minnesota, Kevin Love was, averaging almost a double-double, but people didn't lose their mind, Somebody had to score the points. It was either going to be Chris Bosh or Kevin Love. They was the best players on their team, so they had to score the points. The Joker is the best player on his team, at least at the offensive end he is. So all these numbers and all these stats right here, if it don't amount to winning, that's the thing I like about, this. They want to put you in the GOAT debate. The greatest and the most dominant of this era and all, give you all this praise and stuff like that. But he's sitting on one championship ring. So, a whole lot of guys got, what he had. So you don't really have to argue that.
Only getting louder and louder as the Nuggets fall further and further in the standings and look headed to a very possible first round playoff exit this season. Some may even suggest Those are valid criticisms, criticisms that should even be louder. So, in order to find out, I have set out to compare and contrast. The other guy many would suggest is the actual best player of this generation, and that is, of course, the self anointed king. Not just the best player of this era, allegedly, but also of any era. A guy many, including himself, would have you believe is the greatest player of all time. And as I mentioned previously, Nikola Jokic is smack dab in a 6-year span right now where he is preparing to finish top 2 in league MVP voting all 6 seasons. And conveniently enough for me and my purposes of comparison, LeBron James had a very similar stretch during his playing career. A 6-year span where he won 4 league MVPs, finished runner-up once, and finished third another time, running from his last 2 seasons during his first stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers and 4 years in Miami with the Heat. This span of time is believed by many to have constituted LeBron's greatest seasons, his absolute peak, his aged 24 through 29 seasons. Whereas for comparison's sake, I will be examining Jokic's aged 25 to 30 seasons. And of course, for the king of stats, we can begin with the raw box score counting numbers for these two during these 6-year spans, when LeBron James averaged 27.7 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.1 assists. Nikola Jokic, conversely, has averaged 27.0 points, 12.4 rebounds, and 9.2 assists. Jokic clearing Bron in everything but points per game, but LeBron has also attempted 1.3 more shots per game on average to get his 0.7 of a point more. And looking at their shooting splits during this time, Jokic also pretty drastically clears LeBron James, as James shot 57% from 2, 35.5% from 3, and 76% from the free throw line, whereas Jokic is shooting 64% from 2, 38% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. Again, Jokic easily clears. But look, the pace and style of play was drastically different, in all fairness to LeBron, during the 2009 through 2014 seasons than it has been for Jokic these last 6 years. So let's try our best to neutralize that pace advantage for Jokic by looking at the per 36-minute rate, when LeBron averaged 26.1 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 6.7 assists. Jokic during the last 6 seasons, meanwhile,
I don't know. I mean, all these stats really, to me, don't mean nothing if you're not winning. You know, like you could, like, these stats, and the Joker do lead LeBron James in a lot of stats, but you still have to win. You know, like, where is the winning? Where is the, like, what is the purpose of playing this game? It's, you know, everybody is playing these games so they can get championships. That's what Magic wanted. He wanted championships. That's what Bird wanted. He wanted championships. All these individual stats of what the Joker can do and what LeBron James can do or has done, you know, for 6 years, to me, really don't matter if they don't result in wins and championship wins, right? And I think you can easily counter this guy's arguments, Scap's arguments, especially when he compare this guy to a player like when you compare him to Jaylen Brown for the Boston Celtics, then you see where the Boston Celtics sit at in the East. Then you compare him to LeBron James and what's the other guy, and Luka, and you see where the Lakers sit at. What do they have in common? The Lakers are poor on defense, right? And as a matter of fact, when the Joker and the Denver Nuggets, when they won their championship, their defensive team was really, really good. You know, what they had, Caldwell Pope, who else they had? Aaron Gordon was a really really, really, really great defender. Then you had Michael Porter Jr. So they had some really great defenders on there. They played tough defense surrounding the Joker, right? And as soon as those guys, as soon as Gordon got hurt, then they got rid of Michael Porter Jr. That's when that's when everything just went back to normal because they was not able to play exceptional defense without their defenders. The Joker, I give it to him. He's been consistent throughout that whole stretch on the offensive end. He's been consistent. But if the Joker was to level up and play tougher defense, if he was a better defender, then you could all these stats that you putting out about him will hold some weight. But you got to play defense, and that's the difference. Like that's the difference between the Joker and Jaylen Brown, the Joker and Cade Cunningham, the Joker and what's the other guy named Shea Gilgeous. Those guys. Everybody who would have their team at the top of the list, or they sitting at the top of the East. It's defense. It's not, who's at the you got in the East, you got Cade Cunningham at the top, Jaylen Brown, who else? Then when you go over to the West, the best teams are Shea play defense. What's the other guy? Wembanyama played defense. Houston, who was their best player on Houston? Is it Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant is a pretty good defender. That's the difference. All those numbers. Imagine if Kevin Durant don't play no defense, in the numbers that he putting up. They would have a hard time. They wouldn't win as many games that they're winning. So the thing is defense, man. It comes down to this guy playing defense. The Joker on offense, man, is just a beast. He is just a beast. I like his footwork. He got that half hook shot, that little half hook jumper. Man, the Joker is hard to stop down there in that paint. Then he can shoot, but he's not a two-way basketball player. And that's his so I don't know. Y'all let me know, who do you think is better? And at their peak, was it LeBron James? I think at their peaks, I would give the edge to LeBron James because even LeBron James played defense at his peak. He played defense at his peak. So I would still have to give it to LeBron James, man. And so that's my take on it. Let me know though, who do you think at their peak, who was better, LeBron James or the Joker? So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And I'm going to check you all out in the next video. Peace.